Today is the 18th of September, 2012. We are in Troy, New York at the Troy Senior Center. My name is Wayne Clark. I'm with the New York State Military Museum in Saratoga Springs, New York. Sir, for the record, would you please state your full name and your date and place of birth, please?
My name is John Royce Pattison. Do you want me to spell it? No.
Oh, that's all right. And your date and place of birth?
Date of birth is May 22nd, 1930. And the place of birth was Troy, New York.
Did you attend school in Troy?
I did. Grammar school. Was at School 18 right up in Sickaway. And for high school, I actually went out of town a little bit, went to a school up near the Vermont border. But then when I graduated from high school...
What year was that you graduated?
I graduated from high school in 1948.
Okay.
And I went to, that's the very same year, I entered Hobart College in Geneva, New York. And started my college education. I was actually in the class, entered the class of 52, but because I went in the service in 1951, I had to drop out.
Now, were you drafted?
No, I was a member of a reserve unit in Ithaca, New York. It was the time of the Korean War, and they needed recruits, so they recruited the entire reserve unit.
Oh.
We all got pulled in then, and I went into active duty.
Now, where did you go for your basic training?
I went to Bainbridge, Maryland.
And what was that like?
Well, it was a big, great big camp, you know, not far, just below Baltimore, and it was. It's the thing I told you. They had. It's of course it's a Navy training facility called Boot Camp. There's another one out in Michigan somewhere. I can't remember. Great Lakes. There was a place called Great Lakes. But people from out that way went to that, and people from the east went to Bainbridge, Maryland, and they had basically a mock-up ship built on dry land. Of course, this was on the East Coast, you know, in Maryland, but it wasn't on the water. So here we are on dry land at a Navy training facility.
Now, you had a name for that ship yesterday.
It was called the USS Never Sail, and they trained us about boats and the nomenclature. What's a deck? What's a bulkhead? What do you call stairs? You call stairs a ladder. You know, all that kind of stuff.
Now, when you went through basic, was there anyone else there that you knew from your schooling?
No, nobody.
Or the reserve center, or?
No, from my reserve unit. I don't know where they all went, but they went different places, and so I was the only one from that unit that went. And actually, probably the reason for that, come to think of it, you'd think we all would have gone to, or at least a lot of us would have gone to the same place, but I got sick during that summer, and I had to delay my entrance into the Navy by a couple of months. So I went in later, the rest, and I just went in cold turkey down there all by myself.
And once you graduated from your basic training, did they send you to a secondary school?
No, they didn't. They sent me to a post just north of Philadelphia. You know, supposedly we were only in for 2 years, although I'm not even sure I knew that. But they weren't. Yeah, we were in for 2 years, and if we wanted to stay more than 2 years, or if they needed us for more than 2 years, we would have had to ship over, as they say. So they didn't send me out to sea unless I had gone directly from boot camp. But I didn't. They sent me to a little facility outside of Philadelphia. It was Naval Air.
Okay.
It was there was a place called Willow Grove, which is still there to this day. It's a training facility for the Navy outside of Philadelphia near Doylestown, Pennsylvania.
Now, what did you do there? What was your job?
I had a job, I was in the parachute shop. We packed parachutes and controlled the oxygen supply. Any aircraft going up over 10,000 feet had to be equipped with oxygen, and we had to be responsible for that. And we had to make sure they had parachutes, and we had to make sure that a parachute, I think, if it was packed and hadn't been used in a certain number of months, maybe a year, I sort of think about 6 months, if it hadn't been used in 6 months, we had to keep track of every single parachute. It would, by numbers, they would come back in, we would take them apart, we would hang them up, and we would repack them and make sure they were all okay.
Now, how long did it take you to learn how to pack a chute?
Oh, not very long. Not very long. Maybe a day to learn how they did it.
Okay. And did they ever make you jump?
No, but I had the opportunity to, and I wanted to do it, but it never happened. It just never happened, you know. And we used to go up in the planes quite a lot. We had different kinds of planes there at this little base, and some of them were experimental planes, you know. So it was a very unique little shop. It wasn't Willow Grove. We resided at Willow Grove, and then we took a bus. It's maybe 3, 4, 5 miles possibly from Willow Grove to this other base called NAS Johnsville, and it's the old factory where the Pitcairn auto gyro was built.
Oh, okay.
Do you remember that?
Sure. Yep.
That was quite a thing, but we never saw an auto gyro. There wasn't one there. But they had jets. There were no jets in 1951. I mean, the jets were experimental. But we had some. And we even had a German jet there.
Oh, from World War II?
Plane. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we did. And so we had some of them parked outside on the base. A lot of it was kind of top secret stuff, but that didn't affect me.
Yeah.
We just had to make sure we did our job.
How long did it take you to pack a parachute?
I'd say maybe 20 minutes, but not entirely to pack it, you know, but, well, as I recall, it probably took 15 or 20 minutes to pack a chute. Yeah. We had it all strung out in big long tables, you know.
Okay.
You know, plenty of air.
Yep.
Fluffed them all out, you know. We made sure the halyards were all good.
And you never had any complaints?
No, we didn't. No, and of course they almost never got used.
Yeah.
But very, very rarely did any of them get used.
Yeah.
So they just had to be there. It's like a lifeboat. Lifeboats don't get used much either.
Right. Now, what about your living conditions? What were they like?
Well, I lived in a barracks in Willow Grove, and you know, there are a lot of us crammed in. And actually, I remember the first day we got to that base, we got immediately recruited for kitchen duty in the galley. At least a bunch of us did, and I was one of them. And so we were assigned the very first thing, and that's pretty standard. New recruits, the first thing you do, you either get kitchen duty or you get to mop the floors around, do that kind of duty for a while, and then they assign you to a job, you know.
Now, how's the food there?
It was remarkably good, I thought. And it wasn't boot camp too. You know, I don't know how they could possibly feed that many. We'd go, and our little platoon, you know, that I don't even remember. As it's in boot camp, I don't remember how many there were. in a particular platoon, but we'd all stand up and we'd be grouped in our, 50 to 100 guys, and we would go and stand in formation outside the mess hall, and then they would say, okay, number one, you go in, and number two, you can go in. But they had a huge mess hall there, and they had tables, I mean, just enormous, and all these tables and all these people eating, and all these people serving and cooking, and it was remarkably good. And I can remember some of the guys, well, especially guys from the South, that would complain about the cooking, because it wasn't what they were used to. And,
Now, was there integration at that point?
oh yeah, you mean racial?
Yes.
Oh sure, oh sure, sure. There were some black guys, African American guys in my outfit, as there were any other ethnic identity you can think of. Plenty of Irish, plenty of Italian. Like who knows what everybody was.
Yeah. Now, how were your officers and NCOs?
I thought they were good. We had a chief petty officer, of course, who was in charge of our unit. All the small units were in charge of the chief petty officer, and he was good. I don't remember any issues causing problems, any kind of problems. I just don't. And when you're in boot camp, they put you through training. You do the Uniform Code of Military Justice, which is a remarkable document, by the way. And it teaches you respect. I mean, you have to have respect for other people, and they teach you that kind of stuff. They don't assume that you're going to know that. And I was impressed by that. I didn't know that was in for that at all. And they teach you a lot of basic things like Navy stuff, knot tying and stuff.
Now, did you have a lot of physical training?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Every morning. I guess that's how we did it, actually, when you think about it. We'd be out running around the track first thing, a whole bunch, our whole unit. You'd have to do so many laps, and then we'd stand in formation outside the mess hall. And we had marching training, just like in the army.
Sure.
What do you call that? Marching in formation.
Drill and ceremony.
Drilling, yeah, and ceremonial. I like that, and I got to be one of those guys that stood outside and did I forget what you call it.
Called the cadence.
Yeah. It's remarkable how many of the guys really couldn't step to the cadence. They couldn't. It was hard to get them to do it, but we did it.
Yeah.
And I was good at it. I liked the, I liked that kind of marching drill, I think you called it.
Now, what did you do during your time off?
Well, in boot camp, we didn't have much time off, one thing, but I do remember a couple of times. Well, how long was I in boot camp?
Usually it was 8 or 9 weeks.
Yeah, which is a couple of months.
Yeah.
I remember they sent us at least once, maybe it was twice. They put us on a train from Bainbridge up to Baltimore, and they just sent us up to Baltimore. So we went up, and I hooked up with a couple of guys. We probably went out and drank beer, looked around town a little bit. Some of them came home stinking drunk, but I probably had a few too many, but I didn't.
Yeah.
I drank plenty of beer when I was a kid, but I don't think I was too overboard about it. And you were only up there for, I don't know, 5, maybe you were up there 6 to 8 hours, and then you had to get back on the train and get back down.
Yeah.
And it was fun to get up there and see. In fact, years later, we went back to Baltimore, and it was a transformed city. When I was when I remember it in 1951, it was downtown Baltimore. It was pretty dismal.
Mm-hmm.
Really was. It was slummy and
Yeah.
unattractive. But in that very same area when we went back, maybe 30 years later, had been it's down by the waterfront. You know, the Baltimore waterfront had all been rebuilt. It was beautiful, high-end hotels, a new ballpark, everything. Pretty neat to see that. So, and then time off when we were in Pennsylvania, corn country. Here I am, a sailor, went to corn country. But the time off, I mean, we sort of had regular work hours.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we'd get up, we'd have breakfast. I almost can't remember how we ate at the station, you know, in Willow Grove. But we had breakfast somehow or other, and then we'd get on a bus and we'd go over to the air facility that we were working at, Johnsville. And we worked there, we'd have lunch there. I honestly don't remember what food was like there, but I'm sure we had lunch somehow or other. And then we came back at the end of the day. And a lot of guys there were some people that had cars, and we could go out and funny thing down there, of course, you know, Pennsylvania Dutch, it's just about on the edge of Pennsylvania Dutch country. And they liked their beer. And so did the sailors, most of them. And every once in a while, one of these bars that would love to have the sailors come out, they like to have us come by, you know, be a customer. They would announce that same day, they would get the word out that it's nickel beer night. And I think they meant that for their good customers. So that's why they wouldn't make that public until kind of late in the day. But one of the sailors would just happen to stop by and he'd run across nickel beer night. He'd call back to the barracks, "Hey guys, it's nickel beer night over at Joe's," you know, and so everybody would go piling over.
Yeah.
I don't think the bars liked it that much. They didn't do it for us, really. They were doing it for their regulars, you know.
Now, what rank did you rise to?
I was just airman, first class, I think. That's as far as I got. Because even when I was there at that facility, you can see by my papers I was discharged on the 4th of July, 1953. Let me look again.
Now, that was at the end of the Korean War.
That's exactly what it was. The Korean War was declared over. 4th of July, 1953 is when I was discharged from active duty, and that's because the Korean War was over and they couldn't get us out of there fast enough.
Okay. So you didn't have the option to re-enlist or anything?
Oh, I did. I could have done it, and in fact, at one point, this is kind of an interesting story. I really wanted to go to sea. I didn't want to be stuck in a little airfield, but for some reason, at boot camp, it seems like they were recruiting people to go in at Navy Air. And I just thought, well, at the time, sounded like a good idea, so I did that. But I got on base, and I said to my officer in charge, I said, how could I get to transfer to a ship? And he said, well, the only way you're going to do it, because you're a reservist and you only have a 2-year hitch, that the only way you can do it is to ship over. If you want to ship over for, I forget, it was at least 2 years, maybe it was 4 years. We can make that happen just like that immediately. And so I said, well, no, I don't want to ship over. I want to go back and finish my college.
Did they offer any kind of re-enlistment bonuses at that time?
I don't remember, but I think they did.
Mm-hmm.
Yet I don't remember.
Okay. So you got out and you immediately went back to school?
I did. I got out on the 4th of July, as you can see, and here I was in Troy, New York, just out of the Navy, and I had taken some aptitude tests that indicated maybe chemistry was a good field for me. So I went up to RPI and signed up for a summer course in chemistry, and I loved it. It was great, but then that fall, I went back to Hobart College for my 4th year.
Now, did you have any GI Bill benefits at all?
I did when I got out of the Navy. I sure did.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that must have helped you financially.
It did indeed. It was a great bill. It did.
Okay.
I don't think I paid much. Of course, then college tuition wasn't very much anyway.
Yeah. So you went back to Hobart, and you graduated. What year did you graduate?
In 54.
Okay. And what did you get your degree in?
I majored in economics, bachelor, BA, but major in economics.
And where did you go to work?
Then I came back to Troy, and I had a cousin who had a wholesale paint and glass firm here, and he was looking for somebody.
Oh.
He said something to my father, "When's John coming back?" And he said, "Well, he's coming back pretty soon, or he'd be graduating from college." He said, "Well, maybe I ought to have a chat with him." So I went over and talked to him, and not knowing what else I was going to do, and I'd looked around. I had been out to Pittsburgh looking at the steel mills out there because a guy from Troy, who was a friend of the family, invited me out. He said, "Come on out, have a look around here, see what there is." And at that time, Pittsburgh didn't look too inviting, you know. It was a smoggy, smelly town. Totally cleaned up now. Pittsburgh is a beautiful city today. But anyway, I didn't see anything that looked, you know, interesting. So I said, well, I'll go to work for him for a while. And I did that. And then did that for a couple of years. And then I went to work for a bank and a training program here. I went on and for that, and then I got kind of interested in sales. I was always kind of an outside guy. You know, I'm not shy. I don't mind going out and meeting people, talking to them. So I went into the insurance business. I did that for quite a while. And after that, I went to work for the Troy-built Rotor Tiller company here in town.
Oh, okay.
Where I was always a gardener. All my adult life, I've always had a garden. I'm interested in agriculture, and I've always been interested in mechanical stuff. I'm always playing with lawnmowers and small engines, and even cars. I had an old car that I fixed up, you know. By that time, I had a regular car, you know, but I was always fooling. I always had my head underneath the hood, you know, adjusting points and plugs, which nobody does anymore, but I know how to do that. So I always took care of my own car, you know. And so I went to work up there, and I also do some writing.
Oh.
And so I was able to write about mechanical problems, and I got to be service manager up there for a while at the tiller factory. And people would call in and say, "Oh, I got big troubles. My rotor tiller doesn't run." And I say, "Well, sorry to hear that. You know, how can we help?" And then, "Well, I'd like to get it fixed." "Yeah, good. So would we. You know, let's start at the beginning. How's the motor?" You know, you try to identify where the problem was. Then we'd find out what the problem was, and we'd find some way to get it fixed.
Now, did you end up retiring from them?
No, I didn't. No, I left there after a while, and I went into business for myself, and that guy. I tried to start a business, and that kind of didn't work out too well. But I had to do it, and I'm very glad I did it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very glad I did it. No regrets, but it didn't work, and so I went to work for a distributor selling industrial supplies up and down Hudson River. You know, colon factories, and sandpaper grinding wheels, tools, drills, and taps. Stuff I'm comfortable with,
Mm-hmm.
and I like that business a lot. And I ended up retiring from that.
What year did you retire?
Well, let me see.
Or how long have you been retired?
1990. 1980 was the end of my little entrepreneurial jaunt. That's when I went to work for the industrial distributor.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that for 10 years to 1990. And then for 5 years after 1990, I left the distributor and again went on my own with only 2 products, you know, punches, dies, and drilling and tapping equipment, and punches and dies.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of going out to a factory and having a whole slew of things you can sell, I just had 2 products, and I specialized in those, and I did better doing that
Mm-hmm.
than I did with the distributor. At the end of 1995, my wife and I, she quit her job, I quit mine, retired, went to Florida for a couple of years
Mm-hmm.
to actually work, but then we did that for 2 years, then we came back and we both retired, and actually then we decided we would fix over an old house. Always wanted to do that. So we bought an old house in downtown Troy, not very far from here,
Mm-hmm.
and I had 2 years of taking that thing all apart, ripped down to the bones, and restoring it. It was built around 1815. The house was built in
Oh, really?
1815.
Wow.
It's a federal style house, all put together with wooden pegs, you know, mortise and tenon joints and wooden pegs.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't do it all myself. I hired people, but I was the guy.
Mhm.
I would hire a carpenter to help me, or a mason to help me, and so on.
Mm-hmm. Did you find anything interesting when you started tearing it apart?
Yeah, lots of interesting stuff. I mean, I love to see how the framing was done back then.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always been interested in architecture, and I always wanted to do something like that. And that's where we live now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really a pretty nice house. That's got a lot of early fabric, which like the windows all have those small mullions, you know, small lights, 7x9s,
Okay.
and have Ripley glass, you know, all that kind of stuff. To me, that's precious stuff. You know, I hate to see those windows be taken out of a house, just thrown into a dumpster and crash, they're gone.
Yeah.
Like glass, it's actually, if somebody could take the trouble to take the glass out of those windows, it's worth a lot to anybody doing restoration work.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of it gets tossed.
Sure.
Too bad. Anyway, and actually then after that, so I had retired and we got the house and we moved in, we bought it in 2000 and we moved in 02. And then, meanwhile, Jane had picked up her old job. They wanted her back.
Mm-hmm.
But when we moved into the house, she decided to retire. And then I decided, well, maybe I'll go to work for this friend of mine who sells real estate. She wanted me to come in and sell real estate with her. And so I did that for 6 or 7 years.
Oh.
And then I finally retired. And but I still do a lot of things.
Mm-hmm. Keep busy. And
Yeah, I'm in good health, and I
That's
still.
any children?
Yeah, we have 4 children. Yeah, yeah. I actually have 4 children by a first marriage, and then after we were divorced. I was divorced for quite a few years, about 8 years, and then I met Jane, and she had 3 children of her own, all grown up.
Mm-hmm.
Mine were all grown up.
Okay. Any grandchildren?
Yeah, I have 7
Seven.
grandchildren. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Don't get to see them a lot because they're all grown up now practically. I'm 82.
Oh, gee, you certainly don't look it.
I know, and I feel it. But I come here to the gym.
Mm-hmm.
My wife and I both come here to the gym, work out. In fact, she was thinking about coming with me today, but it was a little too early.
Yeah.
If we'd made this for 10 o'clock, she would have come and she'd be upstairs
Uh-huh.
doing her workout.
Okay.
And we belong to a walking club. We do 10-kilometer walks pretty much once a week.
Oh, that's pretty good.
So,
Yeah.
no, we keep active.
Okay. Did you stay in contact with anyone you were in the service with?
Did for a while. I did for a while.
Let me just stop. Okay. I was asking if you had stayed in contact with anyone that you were in service with.
Well, there were 2 guys that I was great pals with at boot camp. And we all went different places after boot camp was over. And it's funny that one was an Italian guy from Philadelphia,
Mm-hmm.
and the other guy was a Jewish guy from the Bronx, and me, a waspy guy from upstate New York, and we were just great pals. All of us, 3 of us were, and we kept in touch for a little while. And I tried to find my guy. I tried to find both of them since I had letters.
Mm-hmm.
In a little box that I kept with mementos that I keep with a lot of things, And I had their addresses, but they were long since moved from those addresses.
Mm-hmm.
So I've just lost track of those guys. But I would love to see them again. They were funny. They were fun.
Mm-hmm. Did you join any organizations like the Legion or?
No, pretty much. I didn't.
Okay.
No.
How do you think your time in the service changed or affected your life?
Well, I think it was good. I think when you're young like that, putting 2 years into national service, I think is important. I think we should do it here, in this country, like a lot of countries do. I think the Norwegians, a lot of European countries, and I know my wife and I went to Turkey on a trip over there maybe 5 or 8 years ago, whatever, and we found out that everybody in that country, as soon as you get to be like 18 years old, both men and women, you go into 2 years of national service. And we used to do it here, didn't we? Or did we? No, I guess we didn't.
Well, we had the draft.
Yeah, we had the draft.
So.
The draft wasn't a bad deal, We had because there were a lot of people there that didn't want to be in it, but 2 years of national service doing it's like the Triple C, those are wonderful activities. You can do anything that they want you to do, I mean, it could be military, but it also could be, I don't know, it could be health related in a lot of ways, learning to be, what do you call it, what's the word for those guys there? EMT.
Oh, yes.
Emergency medical technician. You can learn that kind of stuff. The youth corps could build, work on Adirondack trails or trails for the
like the old
national
CC.
parks, like
Yep.
the CCC did,
Yep.
and learn skills.
Sure.
Learn how to build. Learn how to build buildings, and learn how to do lots of things. And it's good. it's good to get you away from home. It's good to get you meet other people, go to other parts of the country, and see what's going on. It would be a great thing for us to do.
Okay.
And of course, there are people that, in case of war or military emergency, that people that could probably be drafted into service right away. So anyway.
Okay, in closing, is there anything else you'd like to touch on? You pretty much cover everything.
Well, we're talking about military service. I mean, we're talking about, this was about my experience in the Navy and stuff. And well, I mean, I think I'm just going to leave it with that. I think if there's no conflict that we're involved with at the moment, which is not the case today. Today we are, but I think that even at times when there is no, we're not in a war, that have everybody, say the age of 18 or so, goes into a national service for a couple of years and learn some skills and get some travel experience. It's a good idea.
All right, well, thank you for your interview.
Okay, you're welcome.